Welcome to Perspectives, a brand new talk show here on UTV. I shouldn't be calling it brand new actually, because we're almost 4 weeks now. Had some lovely guests, had some lovely conversations. I certainly have enjoyed it quite a bit, learned so much, and I seem to have started applying it in life as well. As you can see, feeling quite positive with what we've learned so far on this show. Today on the show, I have the honor of having our first female guest, first of many, mind you, female guests on our show called Perspectives. I have with me on this show Mrs. Zahara Ansary, who's the country manager of SEMA. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you, Sam.
How are you doing? How are things? Country manager is a very heavy title. Somehow I feel like it comes with a lot of responsibility. What do you do? What exactly does a country manager do? And what exactly is your role at SEMA? Explain to our audience, please.
Okay, so thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. Well, like you said, country manager is, it's a role with a lot of work, and it's basically equivalent to a CEO role, because we get to do practically everything that a CEO does typically in a role. So being country manager at SEMA is actually exciting, because as a SEMA member, as someone who's been on the SEMA journey for quite some time, I'm really excited to be a part of the establishment. SEMA goes back nearly 102 years, and we are well known across the world. To be honest, some of our guests tell us the minute they step into the airport and then they say, you know, take us to the SEMA office, everybody knows where the SEMA office is.
Okay.
So that's the kind of reputation that SEMA holds in Sri Lanka. We are a household name. And in terms of my role, there's quite a lot of things that I do, but one thing that I'm very, very proud of is the fact that I get to live the SEMA life. I get to be the face of the brand that I truly, truly love. It's something that happens to SEMA students and SEMA members. It's like the magic of SEMA.
Right.
So those who have ever come across the qualification, who've done it, they'll definitely end up completing it, and they'll definitely get their membership, and then they see the kind of change that it does to their lives.
Right.
So that's another phrase that we say, SEMA changes our lives, right? So in my current role, I deal with all kinds of matters relating to our students, to our members, and then I work with various regulators such as the Ministry of Higher Education, to the UGC, to the various registered tuition providers. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun work as well. There is stress, I must tell you.
Every profession in this country has stress, isn't it?
And to be honest, given my background in the various organizations that I've worked before, I have a service mindset.
Right.
So for me, I always believe in doing the best for our students and for our members. So because of that, I always try and, you know, be the problem solver rather than, you know, letting it move on. So sometimes, yes, maybe you all might think, CEO should not get involved in certain things, but for me, the buck stops with me at times, because I want a solution to my members, to my students, and to the various employers we work with. But overall, I want to do my best to the institute that has given me so much. So whilst it may be a lot of tough work, I love my job.
So you're the kind of leader that sort of gets involved in all the groundwork, not just dishing out instructions. Right. You know, when I hear the word SEMA, it reminds me of my higher education days, because I did 2 stages of SIM. Only the A was missing, because I get scared when I hear the word accounts. Okay. Anyway, so what led you to this position? You talked about your previous experiences, you know, being more service oriented. Let's hear your journey, like from the time you left school up until now. What is this journey that you've been through? What are the positions you've held in the corporate world?
Okay. So one thing to correct, you were saying you were scared of the A, right?
Okay.
So SEMA, a bit of a misconception that people have is it's accounting. So we are management accounting, but we are a lot more than accounting. We are business management specialists.
Right.
That's the reason why, I mean, to be very honest, initially when I didn't want to do SEMA, my dad wanted me to be a SEMA accountant. Once I embarked on it, I fell in love with it, because you learn the entire gamut of business.
Right.
That's why I'm finding it very easy to work in.
So it's not limited to accounting alone.
It's not limited to accounting. We are actually, since last year, we are teaching digital skills.
Okay.
So things like even artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of that is now in our syllabus.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a very forward-thinking qualification.
Brilliant.
That's why I love it.
Okay. So let's talk about your journey now then.
Yes. So I started off right after school. I started off with SEMA. Then I joined Nations Trust Bank.
Okay.
So I was there in retail banking, in loans processing, and a variety of departments. But I ended up being sent to the PETA branch, a branch that no one wanted to work
I know why. I spent 2 years in PETA, so I can fully understand you, Zahara.
So, but for me, I felt like that gave me the best grounding ever.
Right,
Because
okay.
you know the kind of customers who'd
Of course,
walk in,
of
right? But for me, I've got a really good memory, so I would know when someone walks in, I would remember their account number if it's like a regular routine customer.
Wow, okay.
And well, I've had my own share of fights as well, but then again, end of the day, I think PETA really groomed me. It's not just because like my dad was working in the vicinity or anything like that, but I think I really blossomed when I was at PETA.
Would you use the word toughened up because of the kind of customers that were there?
That for one as well. And day in, day out, we were dealing with like loads of cash. Every day I would probably count up to like 100 million plus.
Wow, okay.
And you get used to it after some time.
Right.
But the best thing is my managers there saw the potential in me. Even at that point, I was doing my SEMA. So I was the first person amongst my colleagues to get promoted.
Okay.
And then I moved into different roles thereafter. Then since I was doing my SEMA, I always wanted to get into finance. But
Okay.
when I went into the bank, back office finance, that was not my role.
You found it boring
I
because
found
you're so
it-
used to meeting customers and talking to them. I can understand.
I love meeting people. I love talking to people. It's not that I'm a chatterbox, but I just love interactions
Of course,
with people.
yes.
So thereafter, I was still looking for a role in finance, mainly because I had to get my membership at SEMA, right? For that, you need to have 3 years of
Okay.
finance experience. So I joined WNS, and that's where I got loads and loads of opportunities to actually go and work overseas. So I was working in London, I worked in New York, and so on. So,
Wow.
so lots of opportunities there, lots of growth as well there. And I took part in various extracurricular activities. So I was part of the sports committee, the CSR committee, the engagement committee, practically anything that was available there. Because for me, I'm not a person who can stay in one place.
Right.
I want to be active. I want to keep doing stuff and give off my best.
Of course.
Thereafter, I joined Airtel because I kind of got sick of finance only. So I wanted a business role. So I joined Airtel into customer service, but as a business analyst. And there I could use my finance skills as well as understand the business. I moved roles within Airtel from customer service to marketing because
Okay.
deep down my passion was into marketing.
Right.
And then I came across this opportunity. Actually, that was when I was on maternity leave. My husband was the one who wanted me to apply for this role. And then I was like, okay, fine. I don't have any hopes, but I'm going to try. And when I walk into my second interview, all my interviews were done via Zoom.
Right.
And this was back in 2017 when
Okay.
probably a lot of Sri Lankans didn't even know Zoom existed.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So my second interview was with my SEMA lecturer, who I
Okay.
did not know at that point was heading the entire APAC region, so
Wow.
Mr. Venkat Ramanan.
Okay.
Right now, he's my manager as well. Amazing, amazing guy.
Okay.
He knew my passion for SEMA from way back then, so he gave me this opportunity, and well, here I am today.
Brilliant. Okay. You know, I don't mean to dampen the mood, such a bubbly mood that we're in, but unfortunately, no conversation in 2021 is complete without a mention of the pandemic that we had last year. When we come back from this break, I'm going to ask Mrs. Zahara Ansary how she lived through the pandemic and what are some of the lessons she learned from it. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome back to Perspectives. We are in conversation with the country manager of SEMA, Mrs. Zahara Ansary, who's been telling us about her journey into the whole corporate world, how she started, what led her to this, and how she enjoys her role as a country manager of SEMA. However, I did tell you that no conversation in 2021 is complete without a discussion on how people lived through the pandemic. COVID-19, tough times, huh, Mrs. Zahara?
To be honest, yes, tough times, but I actually saw the opportunities within those.
Right. Let me try and get this from you, because a lot of organizations change the way they work. Even my organization, we came up with so many different ideas in the way we work, and there were so many lessons we learned, through this pandemic about, relationship with customers, keeping up with, new technology and things like that. What were some of the things that you learned yourself personally, and also through SEMA? What are some of the practices you've changed at work? Some of the lessons you've learned? Share with us, please.
Okay, so the main thing that if I look at a work perspective, was like I was saying, the opportunities.
Right.
Luckily for us, since we work for a global organization, my boss had already kept us updated. Okay, things are happening. Better be prepared. What are we gonna do? So I actually thought about it way back in Jan.
Okay.
Even before the March lockdowns happened. How are we gonna use this time? How are we gonna, get a head start?
Right.
And to be very, very honest, Alhamdulillah, Samir, last year was awesome for us
Great,
in terms
okay.
of SEMA.
Okay.
We've had good intakes. A lot of the educational institutes that I speak to, they've had issues, but for us, we went head on.
Okay.
We did really well, and my team was motivated, and I'll tell you how. The organization that I work for, SEMA, is now much larger than what we used to be.
Okay.
In 2017, we tied up with the American Institute of CPAs, and now we are called the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants.
Okay.
So a lot of the good practices from the US and the UK are now moving down to the entire organization. And mental well-being is number one.
Wow. Okay.
And in a situation like last year, I'm sure a lot of people had issues, right?
Right.
In dealing with work, being locked down at home, perhaps not even having access to resources, right?
Right. Right.
Some of us probably didn't even have bread, right, for some time.
I
during the
remember
first-
shouting. I remember screaming whenever the vegetable lorry came. And Mom, the vegetable lorry is here.
I think
Crazy
that's-
times.
That's the first time that we actually created a neighborhood WhatsApp.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
exactly.
we
were
didn't
also
know who the
engrossed within
neighbors
ourselves.
were.
True.
Yeah.
True. True.
So my team, they just sprang to action simply because we provided them with the flexibility. We moved away from 9 to 5. Like our normal hours are 8:30, 4:30, and we decided that's not going to work anymore. You work your timing, your flexible timing.
Right.
Some of them had online school for their kids, right? So there's no point of us telling them you have to work the strict hours or whatever.
Correct.
Not
Yeah.
gonna work. Deliver the outcomes.
Okay.
That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what time you're gonna work. The only request, if at all, that I've had is, this is something that I personally practice as well: don't call people in the nights, don't call people on the weekends.
Fair
Don't
enough.
even text them.
Fair enough.
Because I mean, for me, it still impacts me because quite a number of people do that to me,
Okay.
and it's eating into the only family time that we have,
Correct.
right? Because given the pandemic, people are working crazy hours and they want to get stuff done. But let's not disturb anyone.
Right.
But let's try and stick to decent hours. But overall, because mental well-being was also important, we gave people time off. We told them, take time off. It doesn't mean you don't have to go out to take time off. Take time off and settle yourself, because it's a lot to process in our environment today. So overall, personally for me, yes, I have to manage a 4.5-year-old and her schooling as well. It's been a bit tough. There were arguments at home.
I can imagine. I can
as
imagine.
well,
I have
but-
3 kids, so I can totally imagine what you're saying. Yes.
But overall, I think I had immense support from my husband, my maid, my family, all of us. I mean, that really helped me. So lessons learned is, don't intrude into people's personal times, but always think of people's emotional and mental well-being, because that's really important, because otherwise they won't give their best at work either.
And because SEMA is such a global network, I guess you were one thing proactive. You said your boss did warn you about the oncoming pandemic, and also you had the resources to deal with it. Like you said, stress management was something that you took very seriously for your staff members. Okay, we have to go in for another break. When we come back, I'm going to ask a very pertinent question from Mrs. Ansary. See you on the other side. Welcome back to Perspectives, UTV's only English talk show. We talk substance here, we don't talk gossip, serious content only. I am your host, Samir Yunus. Today we are in conversation with Mrs. Zahara Ansary, the country manager of SEMA. She's been telling us about how they dealt with the pandemic last year and, of course, what her role is as a country manager of SEMA. Mrs. Zahara, let's get a bit personal now. You've been telling us about how you personally dealt with the pandemic. Let's speak facts now. It's sometimes hard for a practicing Muslim woman to make it big in the corporate world. You wear that hijab, which I'm sure is, not forced upon you, which is by choice. Has it ever been a sort of an obstacle for you in any way, or has it come in the way of you progressing in your corporate world, or have you ever had to deal with any sort of negativity because of it?
So to be very honest, Samir, I started covering up only in 2010.
Right.
So way before that, I used to just wear the shawl. I've never been forced to cover up. And even right now, it's purely my decision.
Okay.
Not even my dad, not even my husband. Nobody tells me what to do or not to do in life in terms of my religion, because my religion is between me and my God.
Of course.
So
yes.
I do this for my own self. Yes, I have actually come across one instance.
Okay.
I'm not going to quote what organization it was.
No,
but,
we don't want to hear names and titles and organizations. Just tell us about your experience.
So when I did go for this interview, I thought I did really, really well, and I know I was overqualified for that role as well. But later on, I hear from one of my mentors. Her friend had told her that the reason why I was not selected was because I was a hijabi at that point.
Wow. Okay.
Doesn't really matter anymore, because
Right.
I'm in a much bigger role right
course,
now,
of
and
course.
alhamdulillah, everything happens for the best, right, in life. So I am fine with it. And the only other time, if at all, that I felt uncomfortable was right after Easter attacks.
Okay, of course. Yes.
Because the perception of people that everybody is the same. We are not. We know what's right, we know what's wrong, and suicide is completely haram in Islam.
Of course.
And we know that.
Yeah.
So those are the only two. But other than that, I've had very supportive bosses most part of my life. I've had very supportive colleagues. And I guess the fact that I went to a Buddhist school for a good 10 years of my life, like I went to Buddhist ladies and then I went to Alethea for my higher studies, I've known to live amongst people and not make myself feel left out in any way, and blended in well as well, right? I mean, I wasn't necessarily one to insist on, I want the halal food, but even if I go somewhere, I'll manage with the vegetarian food.
Of course, yeah.
We just have to blend in. And we've lived this life, like, all throughout life, we've lived like this, right? So that's nothing new.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's how you take it, don't you? When you're thrown negativity at you, take it with a pinch of salt and smile through it, isn't it? What do you say to such people, Zahara, when you come across young girls who want to, fly into the corporate world very newly, they're just stepping in now? You obviously have those fears. Am I going to be judged? How am I going to be, especially young Muslim girls maybe, with the hijab? What advice would you give them as a closing remark on this show?
Your value system is the most important thing in life, because that is what I have, stood on. So as long as your value system is there and you know what's right and wrong, that's all that matters. Don't let anything, make you do unethical stuff. But beyond that, go out there. It's your world. Do whatever you want. Don't be afraid to take on challenges. One thing that I firmly believe in is go for the experience, don't go for the money.
Okay.
Because end of the day, when you have a lot more experience, that's going to count in later life.
Right.
Like I said, if I didn't take up that PETA assignment, I wouldn't have learned all that I did at that point in time. And now no one can really fool me, right? Because I know right down what happens. Do projects, get involved in stuff, and be nice to people. Go out there and be yourself. Because if you don't take your message to the world and show them, those misconceptions are going to continue. Those misunderstandings are going to continue, right? Like I said, I love talking to people because through me, they see a Muslim, they see a Muslim lady, or they see a lady and they see an empowered lady.
Right.
And they know what's real.
Right.
Because all those misunderstandings then go away. So my request is not just to the young girls out there, but to their parents as well. Trust your kid. They're not going to do anything wrong. And if you trust your kid, the kid's going to come back home and tell you every damn thing that goes on in their lives, right? So you have no issue there. So the family, the supportive family has to always be there. And for the young girls, don't worry. Go out there, do your thing. Don't worry about what people say. Don't bother about the judgments. I've always been known as a way out in my family. And a lot of people never thought, I'll be where I am today. But today I can see all of them turning around and telling their people, like their families, look at her, be like her.
Amazing, brilliant. What a turnaround. If you allow me to add to what you ended with, I'd say you can go out and achieve whatever you want without having to compromise on your faith. You'll agree with me?
Definitely, yes.
There you go. Then that is Mrs. Zahara Ansary, up close and personal, the country manager of SEMA, and many more things which you heard from her. Thank you so much, Zahara. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you indeed for the invitation.
There you go. So then that's another episode of Perspectives here on UTV. We'll see you next week with another very special guest. Until then, do enjoy your week. I'm your host, Samir Yunus.